Why? 19 years after America invaded and devastated it, Iraq has not been able to find its feet. Look at their economy. Before the war, Iraq had a prospering economy. It was rich thanks to its oil reserves. Iraq had one of the most advanced economies in West Asia. In the 80s, Iraq had $35 billion in its reserves. It also had one of the best education systems in the world. In the early 1970s, education at all levels was free. Enrollment in primary schools stood at 100%. Healthcare was free too. Before 1990, 97% of the urban population had access to free primary healthcare. 71% of the rural population had the same level of access. And to be fair, Iraq's economy did start stumbling under Saddam Hussein. It accumulated debt worth around $40 billion. But there's no denying the fact that this complete collapse happened after the American invasion. They dismantled the Saddam regime and robbed his country. There's no other way to put it. It was robbery. Money that was supposed to be used to help Iraqis went to American companies. How did that happen? Let me explain. Iraq's main source of revenue was the export of oil. Once the Saddam regime was toppled, a consolidated fund was created. It was under the control of the Coalition Provisional Authority, the CPA, a sort of a transition government. And this government was established by the US and its allies. These funds financed Iraq's reconstruction. America also sponsored some of these reconstruction efforts. It was supposed to rehabilitate Iraqis. But it ended up benefiting American companies. Consider this. More than 70 American companies and individuals won reconstruction contracts in Iraq. They were paid from Iraq's revenues. This was during the first year of the occupation alone. How many contracts did Iraqi firms get? Next to none. Only 2% of the money spent on reconstruction went into Iraqi hands. How much did American firms profit from the conflict? America's top 10 contractors got a whopping $72 billion. When the Americans finally left, Iraq was bankrupt. And since then, millions of people have sunk into poverty. In 2018, Iraq's poverty rate stood at 20%. Last year, it shot up to 30%. At least 12 billion Iraqis are considered poor today. Their country was plundered in more ways than one. It lost many of its cultural and historic treasures too. The US invasion led to mass looting. Tens of thousands of antiques were looted. Curators at the Iraqi Museum made desperate pleas to Washington. They wanted the museum and its artifacts to be secured, but the US government paid them no heed. The museum was looted. The then US Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld was asked about this. Do you know what he said? Stuff happens. Those were his words. Stuff happens. To Iraq, that stuff is still happening, unfortunately. Iraq still hasn't been able to recover its lost treasures. At least 15,000 items were taken from Iraqi museums. 8,000 of them are still missing. With the invasion, Iraq has lost its identity. It remains stuck in a seemingly endless spiral of violence.